Welcome back. You're watching All About Ads Prime, and this week a quick glance at a book, India Reloaded by Dheeraj Sinha. He heads planning for Grey, the ad agency across India, South and Southeast Asia. His earlier book was called Consumer India, Inside the Indian Mind and Wallet. Thank you very much, Dheeraj Sinha, for joining us.
Thank you.
What's been your personal insight gained from your earlier book, Consumer India, to India Reloaded?
I think Consumer India was located more in the opening up of the Indian economy around 1990s and how India was behaving basis that economic change. The reason to write India Reloaded is more to document and put on board what has gone around with India in last 2 decades.
How is the definition of the middle class here? In India, you say there are 300 million. How is this different in India than it is around the world?
If you look at, for example, the census of India 2011, which is the most authentic data source available, there are not more than 56 million people who own cars. 600 million people do not have access to pure drinking water, toilet facilities, etc. The hypothesis is that the consuming population isn't beyond 600 million, and of that the middle class is somewhere in the range of 50 plus minus odd million. I think we were sent on a wrong chase and a long one at that, with predictions of about 350 million middle class, because there isn't the buying capability in that kind of an audience. In India, you need to look at affordability. Around the world, the idea of middle class is much more conceptual. It is about the class.
And that brings me to the next question. You've spoken about how brands view the mass market in India. So while cheaply priced Tata Nano is rejected, luxury cars enjoy double-digit growth. It's a very complex market. What is your advice to brands in terms of mass versus niche markets? Because volumes do matter.
I think that there are 2 aspects there. One, the niche market itself is growing. In about 4 odd years, Zara is about 600 million in India already, right? If you look at the oldest brand, Peter England, of apparel in the country, which targets the mass segment, is not more than about 1200 crores. In about 3 decades. You can play a premium game, you can play a segmented and a niche game.
So Dheeraj, many brands begin niche and then switch to mass marketing and then also end up losing their niche group. Do you see this as a growing trend?
I think the trick is to define a bold niche, right? So for example, how Bollywood has moved on. In an earlier India, a movie like Lunchbox would never have any shot. But the truth is that movies which are being made at the budget of 4 crore, 5 crore, 8 crores are doing well as well. They are what I call the bold niche, right? So they're not so small that you don't have a profitable play in them. They're big enough to allow you a profitable play. And the trick is to identify those need gaps and bring in products and services which deliver that quality, right? Not everybody needs to chase insurance at 2 rupees per day.
Let's move to service. You've spoken about service as a differentiator and a business proposition. Now all brands know that. What happens in a scenario when most things are outsourced?
I'm again sticking my neck out and saying this whole idea of jugaad to service doesn't work, because jugaad means that you're skipping steps. That's the approach to service which is detrimental to India, right? And the more we eulogize ideas like jugaad, which sort of underline the idea of quick fix, we're not going to be able to deliver service in the way that service is to be delivered. It's an enemy of excellence.
So what you're saying is jugaad inhibits quality service. However, jugaad has been acknowledged to be the basis of innovation, at least in India.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, jugaad, if understood as clever innovation, definitely yes. So for example, about a year ago, there was a hospital in Uttar Pradesh, in Bulandshahr, which came in news because ward boys were operating people. That was jugaad. So I would be careful of eulogizing jugaad and sort of projecting jugaad as a solution for India's innovation. I think it's an enemy both in research and development. It's also an enemy in service delivery. One of the biggest things that the e-commerce guys are fighting in India is the last mile delivery at the logistics end. I think the other big factor in our service delivery, or the lack of it, is the dignity of labor. I mean, some people would say that I would rather get served in a 5-star restaurant than be seen serving somebody else.
So you've been talking about e-commerce. I'm very surprised really not to see too much emphasis on e-commerce in the book. Why is that?
I think there's a variety aspect to e-commerce which has been spoken about enough, and there's nothing more to decode there. To my mind, the success of e-commerce will depend on service and the delivery of service, right? There's huge amount of disenchantment in the e-commerce space from a consumer perspective.
So service is the key even in e-commerce. I have a question which is completely unrelated on governance that you've mentioned in the book. 65-year-olds governing 25-year-olds. What can go wrong?
The youth in India do not fly in the face of rebellion. They find a bypass to express themselves. So what you see happening with All India Bakchod, or what you see happening in the online space in terms of memes or in terms of what's happening in the Facebook, that's the resentment of the youth in India. You're allowed to get married at 21, but you're not allowed to drink till you are 25. Only 8% CEOs are below the age of 40. And the results are evident, right? I mean, brands typically talk to a youthful mindset, young in mind, which is 45 years rather than the real youth, which is 25 years old.
So many contradictions within the Indian market, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we reject the nano but embrace luxury cars. We are traveling abroad much more but prefer buying groceries at Big Bazaar, and an emerging group of millennials in this mix. If you want to begin understanding parts of this contradiction, India Reloaded sets you on that journey. On that note, thank you, Dheeraj, for joining us on All About Ads.
Thank you so much.
We're an ad show, but that does not exclude marketing and consumer insight. And we are giving away 3 autographed copies of India Reloaded. All you need to do is answer this question. Here is the question.
According to author Dheeraj Sinha, what will drive differentiation in the future? Service or manufacturing?
And all you need to do is hashtag India Reloaded and mark All About Ads NDTV, or send us your answer on email to aaa@ndtv.com.